Hello and welcome to Across the Pond Aces. I'm James Scott, and back with me this week is Samantha. How are you feeling this week?
I am definitely feeling better and I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, nice to have you back. I noticed you took the week off that we lost the game. Thanks for that.
Needed to recover in that one, but I'm still in Vegas, as you can see. I've done a little bit of traveling, but I think I'm staying my grounds in Vegas. So right now I'm dedicated to that. So let's see where that takes us this season.
Looks like a really nice suite you're in, I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very, very nice. Well, I'm still at home in sunny slash rainy Scotland. Thanks for
I
that.
just got these new blankets and pillows too for the decor. So glad we were able to do that.
Oh, yeah, glad that our budget is stretching for for pillows. Right then, back to Aces. As we're here, that's what we're here for. Now we're going to talk about All Star. We have big announcement that I'm going to announce right now because I can't wait till like halfway through the show or anything. So some people may remember that there was a game in Canada in pre-season, and we were lucky enough across the pond sports network. We're lucky enough to have someone there, media credentialed, and at the event and the press conferences, and we've managed to put out some pretty good content from that.
Mhm.
So to follow that up, we have now been given media credentials for the WNBA All Star Weekend. So we have Nurel, who is going to be there live for us. She's from Syracuse University. She is flying out on Friday to
Okay.
All Star, and she is going to be on the ground for us at All Star, which is amazing. And we started the WNBA podcast. This is our third season. And then obviously this year we've added the Aces podcast where we are now and also the Liberty podcast. So we're growing and also at the same time, like I think the WNBA might be taking us a little bit seriously now.
Mhm. I mean,
It's,
while even though I am technically in Vegas, we thought it would be better to have somebody else come in and be able to be on the ground more so while I'm up in the sky. She's more in the ground. So definitely excited about that. And we'll be able to get more of like an inside scoop and be able to be more with everybody there.
yeah, it's gonna be fun. So we're gonna have a special episode the Friday after All Star. Nuriel will join myself and Michelle Snow on that episode. We will be taking next week off on the Aces side, as will be the Liberty, just because there's not going to be too much happening during unless some big like major trades or
Mhm.
free agents get signed or something like that. But I doubt that's going to happen. I think everyone will be. It's been a pretty hectic season so far, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it has been, and who knows where I'll be next episode. So we'll definitely stay tuned to find out on the next, not season, but next episode of where I will be.
Yeah, we should do a series of where in the world is Samantha.
It's like a
That
"Where's Waldo?" but it's "Where's Sam?" and we'll find out where we are.
oh, that's gonna be so much fun. So, this past week we've had three games since
Mhm,
we last put an episode. Uh, First one was Sunday against the Lynx, and from what we've seen this season of our work ethic and stuff, is we like to finish teams off pretty early. Uh, we kind of outscored them in every single quarter, finishing 113 to 89, and it's just again like there's just a dominance that we're going into these games with. One thing that I will say that I liked, I commented on it last week,
mhm,
and I said I didn't feel like we were using our bench all that much.
okay.
But this game, good example, we used four of our bench players,
Yeah,
which was nice to see people coming in. It's nice to see Kia Stokes getting a bit of a starring role, but Kelsey Plum dropped 40 in this game.
mhm.
She was on fire. She was shooting 78% field goals. Like when you have players, and like we said this at the beginning of the season that this could happen. That
Mhm.
when you've got Asia Wilson, Kelsey
Yeah.
Plum, Candice Parker, Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray, like if even just one of them go off, like you're pretty much guaranteed to win, and that's what happened in this game.
I think it was kind of funny because you and I had when we were choosing our all-star teams, I chose Kelsey, and you said, you're like, she hasn't been as much a force this season. And then what does she come and do? She goes and scores 40 points. So maybe she heard the episode and was like, I've got something to prove to the Aces podcast. But even if she didn't, I know that deep down, she knew she hadn't been maybe herself coming up yet. But I think she was also getting used to being with different people on the team this time around, and I know Candace is injured now too. So it's kind of been shifting roles a little bit. Everybody's kind of figuring out a different place. And I think that's exciting for Kelsey that she got that 40-point game, as she was able to show that she's not going anywhere anytime soon. She's continuing to prove to her name that who she is.
Yeah, she's been absolutely outstanding in that game, and to be fair, she's been outstanding for the last couple of years, and
Oh yeah.
I think it is difficult when you have, like, a bona fide MVP, multi-champion come into your locker room, and it is gonna change the dynamic,
Yeah.
and I think, in all fairness to Becky, like, she calmed the team down, she
Hmm.
got the chemistry together, and it worked. So, yeah, it was something to behold. A 40-point game.
Oh yeah.
Our next game was up against the Phoenix Mercury. Um, there was a little worry for me in the fourth quarter because like neither team seemed to be able to score. We did win 98-72, so like for us, there probably wasn't that much of an urgency. But yeah, it was. It just wasn't the best fourth quarter of basketball from either side.
No.
If I'm perfectly honest, but it was nice to see Brittany Griner and Diana Taurasi back on the floor.
Yeah.
They've in fact, this whole team pretty much for Phoenix, every one of them have probably been injured at some stage through this season. But one thing I noticed, like Sophie Cunningham is one of these players where I think she's a momentum player,
Mhm.
and if she gets in a rhythm, like she can kill you. She can take over a game and kill you, and we stifled her, like, massively. We held her to 2 points. She's usually a digit scorer, but we had 3 players with 20 plus points. We had Chelsea Gray, Asia Wilson, Jackie Young. Kelsey, she took she took it a bit easy that night, just
Yeah.
17. But again, we used a lot of our bench. We used 4 bench players again. So, like, I I don't know, maybe Becky must have listened to me last week.
I think so. Maybe our podcast is really getting noticed with the actual team. I think we've been talking about things, and the next thing you know, it's happening. So I honestly think, going back to you said about the bench, I think it's important that they're able to really be able to play because, we're seeing this with other teams. Their star players are getting injured and they're kind of falling apart. I don't want to say falling apart, but compared to how we're doing this season, based on how other teams are doing, I'd say falling apart. We've been kind of lucky, our team hasn't been hit with injuries other than now with Candace, Ruquana. Like there's a couple players that have been, dealing with injuries, but our main like core have not. But we're still utilizing the bench so that they get in and they're able to still have that that chemistry. They're still able to have time to go in and play. They're still able to, they're not just sitting on the bench waiting patiently for, just looking around at the stars. No, they're getting to be able to go in and in the moments that they can't, right? Because I know Becky has a plan and Becky is she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone would ever doubt Becky.
No.
I think you do so at your own peril. So, nah, I think you're right, and I think that kind of showed as well going into the last game of the week against the Sparks because we scored 32 points to their 15 in the first quarter, and like the only the only quarter we didn't was the fourth, and like I mean, let's be honest, that was like garbage time for us because we were so far ahead,
Yeah.
and there does come a point where you do take your foot off the gas, because you are winning by so much, and it's a kind of a shame because I feel like NECA is not really kind of getting the support that she
Mhm.
should. Like Derek Hamby played 25 minutes in this game, but I think she's as well had issues with injury. Carly
Yeah.
Samuelson's had issues with injury. as has Jasmine Thomas. So I think I expected more from the Sparks this year, and I thought they would really
Yeah,
actually challenge us a lot more. But Kelsey Plum again, 21 points. Asia Wilson another 25. We used the bench, maybe not as much, which is
yeah,
kind of a surprise for me because I kind of thought, well, if you're up by so much, you can probably give like those bench players some extra minutes. But like
yeah.
Sydney Colson played like 3 minutes. Um, didn't really didn't get the opportunity to kind of put anything onto the game. But we still won 97-78. It's still
Mhm.
a strong away win because it was away in LA. But yeah, I think overall this week 3 wins from 3 games is a positive week.
So far, while we didn't get fully an undefeated season, I think we're doing pretty well. I mean, we are the best team right now going into it, and I don't even see other teams being as close. Maybe we're kind of like the only team that really hasn't suffered injuries, though. I mean, if you really think about it, we're every other team has kind of been hit with some type of major injury that has really influenced it. And we're like, all right, we've been healthy. Is it our team doctors, or are they just maybe treating them a lot better, or what's going on there?
It's probably a lot of things. Like it's probably the training facilities,
Yeah,
the way the team travels, the nutrition, like all that kind of stuff that a lot of teams are now buying into.
yeah,
Um, and I think sometimes, if I'm honest, when you think about injuries, sometimes it's just about luck.
yeah. That's true.
And like if you take a knock or something, or you take a bad tumble, or
Yeah.
even if you're just running down the court and suddenly your hamstring bursts,
Well, hey,
like,
we've
you
all
know,
we've all had those injuries where they're very unexpected. I can honestly say last time I suffered an injury, I broke my arm. I was
I,
actually surprisingly playing basketball. I went to go shoot the shot. I shot it. I made it, but I slipped, fell right on my arm, broke my wrist, and it was a story to tell on its own because, again, that was not a expected at all. But like you said, you never know what could happen with these players, and like you said, it's definitely luck at times too. So maybe we're just in Vegas getting lucky.
Maybe we are. Now, we are going to have an extra game against the New York Liberty this year
Okay,
because we're both going to be playing, and I think everyone kind of predicted this. We're both going to be playing in the Commissioner's
Commissioner's
Cup.
Cup.
I used to play in the Chairman's Cup in Scotland, but in the Commissioner's Cup this year. So we're going to get this extra game. There is a point in the season where I think we play them back to back as well. So we've won the first game. I've dubbed these super games. So we've won Super Game One,
Okay.
but now we've got this extra super game. And if I'm honest, like the Liberty have a lot of work to do if they want to beat us
Yeah.
because that first game they were great. Now the game isn't until August 15th,
Okay.
but so we've got some time. But yeah, that Commissioner's Cup has made. I think it makes the season so much more interesting. You see
Yeah.
teams like Chicago, Indiana, and Atlanta who maybe want to be brilliant this year, but they're fighting for every game and having
Oh,
close
yeah.
games each week. So that's a good point. But for the Liberty, is this an extra trophy for us this year?
I have a feeling it will be, but I don't think it's gonna be as close as we're thinking it is going to be. I think they're gonna study the game, watch where they went wrong the first time, and take that into account. They already got to play them once this season, so they are familiar with how they are playing, and I think it's going to be a close game, but I do think we will take the win.
Yeah, I'm confident now. In all fairness to Liberty, we mentioned teams going through injury issues.
Mm.
Injury and players being away playing international tournaments.
Mhm.
Um, like their big center's been away hand, so like that's obviously gonna play into it as well if you're missing players. Um, and it's weird, like in the UK, if there's an international tournament, like there's no league games. Like even if there's international friendlies, the league games usually have that weekend off,
Yeah.
and everyone just tunes into the international game. So it's kind of weird to have tournaments in in the middle of the WNBA season. So we'll see how that pans out for the rest of the year. Um, but in terms of the Liberty, they are scarily good. But
Yeah.
again, I for the playoffs, I would not discount the Connecticut Sun, even though they also have had injury issues. Like they fight for every possession, and
Mhm.
they don't give up for 40 minutes, and they're scarily good.
I think they were, they were really good last year too. So, I
Mhm.
mean, they're a team that even though they went through a new coaching staff, they're still who they are. And I think that's super important because, normally when you go through a new coach and you go through a new coaching staff in general, it takes time to acclimate. So when you're able to see that teams are doing well, maybe not record wise or maybe not, what we would consider, but then again, comparing anything to the Aces right now, you can't compare. So going into it, I think the Suns, like you said, they have a new coach. They don't have Kurt Miller anymore, and now they're doing their own thing, and I think that's important. And I think they're doing the best with what they can.
Yeah, I've always said this about the Sun. Like you said it, like they were a great team last year,
Mhm.
but unless you actually watched the game, you wouldn't know because no one talks about them
Yeah,
because they're not in New York. Like they're close to New York, but they're not in New York. So it's almost that New York East Coast bias that people have.
I
And
actually I have a funny story about that. I was talking to my dad who doesn't know much about WNBA. He does follow sports, but he doesn't know much about the WNBA. And, obviously him and I talk and he said to me, he goes, I never get to see the Aces play. He goes, the only thing they ever play on TV is the Liberty. So, it was funny to see him talk about the Liberty. And I was like, all right, well, hopefully you don't become a Liberty fan, but you know, so that we're, maybe the Liberty are gonna start to have a new fan.
well, there you go. Let's get your dad along. Um, Yeah, it's a weird thing, the East Coast bias. Now,
Yeah,
I do have a bone to pick this year, and
let's hear it.
I'm going to be picking it all year long. So last season on the WNBA podcast, I praised NBA 2K for their inclusion of the WNBA into the game and letting young girls play their idols, who they get to watch on TV, and I praised them. And they did a deal last year, whereas if you pre-ordered the game, you got the NBA League Pass for free for that year. And I
Okay.
thought that's a great idea. But hang on, the WNBA season is in season right now, so why don't you offer that? And then kids and young girls can watch the WNBA now because that was what was on at the time. And we wrote to them, and they sent us a nice email back saying, "Great idea. Yep, we'll pass that up the chain." They haven't passed it up the chain, and well, they maybe have, and it
They
fell on
sent
deaf
it
ears.
they sent it to spam.
Yeah, I don't think they did because it was a very nice woman. We had a bit of back and forth on emails, so I won't slate her. But but yeah, the new kind of game has come out, and if you pre-order it, you get NBA League Pass for free again. I think during Summer League, and there's no sign of WNBA League Pass on there. And I think that's disappointing because they announced obviously that Sabrina is going to be
Yep.
the WNBA cover athlete, which is great. Again, big positive. But again, I feel like either the WNBA or NBA 2K are missing like the link here
Yeah.
because we want to make the game more accessible to young girls and boys, and I think we're failing at that. I mean, don't get me wrong, the price point of the WNBA is an absolute steal for League Pass at
Oh,
like
yeah.
$24 or something. So don't get me wrong, it's a steal. But by highlighting it's there, like you give more like instead of just one post from
Mhm.
NBA 2K saying, "Oh, Sabrina's the cover athlete."
I
That's
agree with you on that. I mean, I think, like you said, it is definitely a steal, for sure. I had WNBA League Pass and, like, compared to what you would maybe pay for, like, MLB TV, like, I've had that before, and I know there's a huge price difference. But, you know you're starting to see a lot more attention being drawn into the WNBA, and the fact that, even playing NBA 2K, like I play it, and for them to have that relationship with the WNBA, that's nice that I know NHL does this too, where they have where you can play as a female, you can have a female team. But I think it's awesome that they're also having where you can play WNBA, you can play as your favorite character. You don't see as many girls playing video games. I mean, you do. You definitely do. I don't want to get scolded for that. Because I do. And but obviously when you think about demographic wise of who plays video games, you're usually thinking of, boys maybe in their I don't wanna even say what age because now you see
40s.
exactly. So
We get you off the hook there.
so you're definitely seeing people like you said, the fact that they don't have access to the WNBA League Pass right away, and it's different times of the year too because NBA, maybe doesn't start until a little later. So it's definitely one of those maybe there is a disconnect. Hopefully your email does get up the chain. I mean, if anything, maybe eventually.
Maybe. One thing that I was thinking about is obviously we get ESPN sending out like viewing figures. And I think the latest viewing figures said it was like 25-30% up
Yeah.
on viewership from last year already. So there probably is an argument to say, well, if we give everyone League Pass, we're still getting viewers, but it's sexy for it to be through ESPN
Yeah.
um, and on actual TV. So because I think I don't know about analytics and everything if you can analyze League Pass, but I have noticed that the WNBA never put out figures on League Pass. Because I'd like to see them. I might actually just email them and ask them for that because I think that's something that'd be really interesting. Anyway, enough about my gripe. So back onto some good news. Asia Wilson is picking up every award under the sun this year,
Oh, yeah.
and she has picked up another one, Samantha.
She did. So yesterday was the ESPYs, and I only stayed tuned for a little bit, but I did get to see, a moment where they brought LeBron James on, and he was being honored. And I think what was really like, I don't want to say touching, but the part that I really thought was really nice was, he called out Asia Wilson at the end of it and he congratulated her on just winning her own award. And then, and at the end of it, he also talked about how he's encouraging people to continue to watch the WNBA because he's a father of a daughter as well, and even though he supports his sons in basketball, he also has a little girl who, and he's a huge fan of the WNBA in general. And I think that's awesome to see a man of his figure, like in his statute, like of what he can, if his platform, he can go ahead and bring out to everybody and tell them, hey, watch it. You might have somebody who has never seen a WNBA game, but for them to have LeBron James saying, hey, watch them play and start talking more about it, it's going to draw attention. They're going to check it out. At least even if it's one time, they're going to go check it out. And I think that's awesome. Another part of the ESPYs too that this isn't basketball related, but they did, Liam Hendricks was there, and I thought that was awesome the way they had the Jimmy V Foundation, and the Jimmy V like award there for him. That was another touching moment. So, being in a stage of the ESPYs where there's athletes from all different sports coming together and you're hearing all the different stories and you're able to see all of that, I think is great. A lot of attention, a lot of different, moments.
I think you're right, and I think like we do obviously at the moment the summer league's going on in Vegas, so we are seeing a lot of players, NBA players,
Oh, yeah.
crossing the street and well, it's not really just crossing the street. I mean, they have to go quite a distance to be fair, right across Vegas to go watch the Aces play. And I think Washington as well. Whenever I see the Mystics play at home,
Mhm.
there's always some Wizard players kicking around, like always.
Yeah.
Um, Same with LA. Like you'll see
Oh, yeah, at the
Te
Spark.
doesn't
Mhm.
doesn't tend to be Clippers players, but you do see some Lakers players hanging about, and I think that's good. And I'm hoping, it's just my side note, but I am hoping that when the NBA expand and they get a team back in Seattle, like we'll have a really good partnership
Yeah.
between the NBA team and the WNBA team, the Seattle Storm, because I think it's nice. And like I say, Vegas is kind of a really good central point for people to come. There's
Oh, yeah.
different events going on, like summer league. So, and who knows, we may have an NBA team
Mhm.
in Vegas at some point as well.
I mean, that
That'd
would
be
be nice. That would definitely be nice. That would be a different, like, whole new avenue, but it would be nice.
it would be really weird to have a team in Vegas. I mean, they've got baseball coming. We've got American football. We've already got WNBA. Like
Hockey, can't forget
hockey's there. Oh yeah, we got Stanley Cup. I mean,
that.
could one city hold all of the titles? Well, I mean, apart from the Raiders, but
We
um,
had to give them the credibility, you know?
yeah, they've got a lot of work to do. Who knows? Tom Brady might just come out of retirement and just start flinging some balls around. Um,
He could pull a Brett Favre and just come back whenever
oh,
he wants
Brad.
to.
Oh dear, please don't. Uh, please, Tom. You already ruined your marriage. So let's not go down that route. In terms of All Star, what are we looking forward to? We've seen like 3-point shoot
Mhm.
contests, skills challenges, and stuff. One thing I've noticed though is that really only the players that are involved in the actual All Star game itself are participating, and I
Hmm.
kind of feel like we could have opened that up to players because the NBA do it. Like they'll bring in
Yeah, the
players.
NBA, like, you don't really see,
Yeah.
like, especially, like, in the competitions,
Mhm.
you see different play like, you see rookies sometimes going into it, or you see players that are not on the ballot or not in the actual, like, event itself. I think that's cool for them to be able to still have an opportunity to showcase their talent. But maybe, maybe I I don't know. I think that's an interesting tidbit because I guess maybe I just wasn't too like sure. Like
Mhm.
maybe I didn't see like, oh, like maybe I didn't put two and two together that they're like the same players that are doing this or they're the same there. So, but overall, I think it's interesting. Like you said, the NBA does a completely separate thing. So I think that's cool.
I think it's good. Like I know Ali Quigley, obviously Courtney would be in the All Star game,
Hmm.
and if Ali wasn't, like Ali was still taking part in the 3-point contest and stuff. So I don't know. I just seem to notice it this year that there's no like
Hmm.
additional players in there. It's a bit strange. Another thing that they could have done this year with all these NBA players being in town, they could have got them involved a bit as well. Maybe they will. I don't know. Maybe that
They
that
probably will
happens
have
for
them
them.
come out, but I think they have such a busy schedule right now with NBA Summer League, like, they probably are they're so when you're in that NBA Summer League, you're so busy that between going you do go to your teammates' games, you go check them out, but also just it's overall so many things going on at
It's
once.
Vegas.
Yeah, they probably will go to the games, like,
Yeah.
we will probably see a lot of NBA players in attendance,
Hmm.
at some point. You'll see them in the stands, especially at the skills competitions or things like that.
Yeah. Hopefully we do. Hopefully there's a good turnout.
Oh, yeah.
I have seen some rumblings about some WNBA players unhappy with their tickets for family members and stuff.
Oh, no.
So we'll probably talk about that on the WNBA show because that's not going to be good. Um, sometimes I feel like the WNBA just shoot itself in the foot, and I don't even think they mean it. Sometimes I think they're just like, "Oh, well, that's an oversight. Let's change it." But yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Right. So, as we said before, we are going to be on hiatus next week. So we're taking next week off, but we will have the WNBA show with myself and Michelle, where we will be talking about All Star Weekend. So that we'll look forward to that, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. So have a great one. Enjoy All Star, and we will be back real soon.
Enjoy, everyone. Stay tuned as to where I'll be next.